hope so.
Right.
Closure. Yep, absolutely.
That was pretty similar. Sounds like a.
Well, I said that was just timing because I hadn't talked to him until that day and I thought it was right that day.
So they had the JRAC board early because, you know, they had it posted at 12 and so it's not at 12. And they already had it and already went ahead and videotaped it, and so it will be posted later. As well as this, because somehow there's a problem with the internet. All right, so here we go.
Yeah, sunshine.
I've never been very close. I don't like the taste or OC.
Oh, and yeah, they cater this one.
And I'm cool about both. It needs to get done one way or the other.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Well,
You
that's
know I
one
like
of
to
you.
try cases.
That makes one of you.
Around all the time.
Yeah, Ken Pierce should be interesting in the trial. I've had him in hearings before, like back in the day, but
Yeah, I've never
not tried
seen
anything with him.
I've never seen it on jury trial.
I think one of the first like emergency testing hearings I had was with him and Tony Newkirk years and years ago. He's interesting.
I like him.
Does Jessica not come in and I disagree about everything about the whole
I don't know.
I wouldn't say we disagree about everything.
Sometimes I come
Don't argue now.
you know, you get to know them a little better and everybody calms down and maybe you end up, so I'll keep an open mind.
No, it sounds like it's already formed, Melissa.
And it's not like it matters, you know, it's not even
Yep.
a thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's actually fun, like I'd like to try these with Alex. I think that would be a nice exercise. I like trying cases with Clark.
Jessica doesn't come down. Do you want to sub as our victims assistance person since you deal with most of the victims?
Love to. I will not be here today.
Okay, that's what I was
You
gonna
will
check.
be
I
a
didn't know.
voting member then today?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Whatever
Thank you.
comes my way.
Well, you deal with the victims as much as she does, so I feel like that's appropriate for you to do that.
You all right?
Doing good, all right?
So usually he's around.
Good.
Okay, folks, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I think almost everyone is here that's going to be here. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. And first thing that we need to address is the minutes from the meeting on November 14th, 2023, which I provided all of you an email last week. Are there any additions, corrections, or discussions about the minutes? I have a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Terry, may I have a second?
I will.
Judge Medlock. All those in favor, show of hands. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? All right. The minutes will be entered as submitted then. On to new business, and I apologize, we have a plethora of reports to go over. The first of those, Melissa, you didn't get these. Do you want to see copies of them?
Sure.
Okay. Sorry, there's a load. I think that's everything. Okay, the first set of reports are the October through December of 2023 DOC financial reports. Is there any questions or discussions regarding those reports? If not, can I have a motion to accept the October through December 2023 financial reports for the Department of Corrections?
So moved.
Mr. Albert, second.
Second.
Mr. Risherber, sorry. All those in favor, yay. Show of hands. Anyone opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, we'll show those reports as accepted. The second report is the 2023 Performance Measures Report for Community Corrections. Any discussions or questions regarding those reports, or that report? Okay, can I have a motion to accept that report?
So moved.
Medlock? Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Berry? All those in favor, show of hands, please. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we'll show that as accepted then. The next thing that we have is the 2022 audit exit letter. We don't need to vote on that, but we did want to present that to you. And Myra, would you mind to just summarize the audit and the results for everyone?
So the audit was not done until November of this past year for 2022. She looked at all of our findings. She was in agreement that we had unspent grant funds that will carry over to 2024, so we agreed on that. They also had sent an email with that had some things that we have to be aware of when doing our budgets. One of them, of course, which I had already took care of for this year, was the advisory board meal money needs to come out of a projected income instead of grant funds. So that's already taken care of for 2024. And then for 2025, gift cards will not be able to be purchased through the grant. Those will have to be purchased through projected income. And so if you'll notice when you get to the budgets, that's the way it's broke out, is gift cards is through the projected income, not through grant funds for that purpose. But other than that, she found no issues with our audit for 2022.
Does anybody have any questions or discussions about the audit? Okay, I'm going to kind of go out of order for just a few minutes. I just wanted to introduce to everybody Tabitha McLean, who just walked in. She's sitting in the back. Tabitha is our new CASA coordinator. Courtney left us to go to Kentucky. So Tabitha, welcome. Help yourself to the food. All right, moving on under new business. 2023 Community Corrections Annual Report. We don't need to vote on that. I just wondered if anybody had any questions about that or questions about how Community Corrections is operating at this point in time. All right. Last thing is our participant numbers report for the last quarter of 2023 and January 2024. Again, we don't need to vote on that. Just wanted to make sure everybody knew what our participant numbers were and to see if anybody had any questions or discussions about that. Okay. Last thing under Community Corrections is the Community Corrections budget for fiscal year 2025. Myra, you want to talk about that real quick?
So grants have just opened up. They will close on April the 12th, which means it will be before our next meeting. So usually I draw the budgets as I'm doing the grant. So this year I tried to go ahead and prepare ahead of time. So I'm hoping that this will stand fast. If not, we'll have to maybe do something quick to get a different approval. But I think at this point we've covered everything. I took out a couple of things that we have not used since we are actually merged with the probation department, like printing and mailing, things like that. So I took those things out of the budget. I did increase the case manager's salary. That's not how much she'll make. She's based on the probation officer salary set by the state, but that'll give us a little bump for this next year, and I think it'll also cover 2026 before we'll have to look at something different. So I kind of tried to plan ahead. Gift cards, I set out projected income of $1,000, and meals for advisory board, projected income of $2,000, and right now we have that much money sitting in projected income to cover that.
I'll just add under the salary section that the salary for the community corrections worker is based off of the salary for probation officers that's set by the state every year. This past year, there's been a push for an increase, and we thought that was going to go through. They were going to change how the salary schedule was set out. Myra just found out that that's not going to occur, so she based that income for the caseworker salary on what we thought the increase was going to be. So we'll leave it like it is, and then of course if the money's not spent, it'll just stay in the account. All right, any questions or discussions about the budget? We do need to vote on that. Can I have a motion to accept the proposed budget for community corrections for fiscal year 2025?
So moved.
Mr. Albert, can I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Bushbear? And all those in favor, show of hands, please. Any objections? Any abstentions? Okay, Judge Meadows abstains. All right, now on to Veterans Court reports. The first report you received was a financial report for the IOCS, that's the Indiana Office Court Services Grant, for the last quarter of 2023. We do need to vote on that. May I have a motion to accept the financial report for the IOCS grant for the last quarter of 2023? Mr. Green, I have a second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Berry? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Judge Medlock abstains.
And the remainder of that money on that report was sent back to the Indiana Office Court Services in January, so that is not in the funding.
The remainder that was left after the grant was returned to the state. Okay. All right, second report you have is the financial report for the Sims grant, first quarter. The fiscal year on that grant is October 2023 to September 2024. That's why this is the report for the first quarter that you received. Can I have a motion to accept the financial report for the Sims grant first quarter?
Also moved.
Judge Medlock? I have a second.
I'll second.
Staff members, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you. All right, third thing you have or received is the October through December 2023 DOC financial reports. Those are similar to the community corrections reports that you received also. This is just for the Veterans Court. Can I have a motion to accept the financial reports for October through December 2023?
So moved.
Mr. Bridger, can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Blake, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Judge Medlock. All right, next thing we have is the 2023 performance measures report. Again, that's for Veterans Court. Can I have a motion to accept the 2023 performance measures report? Mr. Green, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Tara, Ms. Kota. I didn't ask, were there any questions or discussions regarding that? Okay, can I have a show of hands as to anyone who's in favor of that? Anyone who objects? And any abstentions? Judge Medlock. All right. The next thing we have is the Sims Grant Award Letter for September 23, 2024. We don't need to vote on that, but Myra, can you give us a short update on that?
So that's the grant that we had previously. We asked them to continue that on, and so that, in fact, was carried on at the amount of money that we had left from the past year. So they awarded the exact amount we had left, and so we're moving on with that same amount for the next year.
Melissa, I didn't give you this.
I thought I
Sorry.
just overlooked it.
No,
Thank
didn't
you.
give it to you. All right, the final thing we have is the Veterans Court budget for fiscal year 2025. Are there any discussions or questions regarding that? Myra, you want to give us a brief update on that one also?
So we have been applying for Department of Corrections grants for Veterans Court for 2023 and 2024. 2023, we asked for quite a bit. 2024, I lessened that amount. The amounts are just not coming out that we need, so the coordinator, Keith Berry, and I discussed this, and we feel that we can operate this program, one, through the SIMS grant that we've already been awarded, but also through the Indiana Office of Court Services grant that we have been obtaining as well, and not file for the Department of Corrections grant, so that grant will not be applied for this year, but the Indiana Office of Court Services grant that we've had in the past, we will continue to request that amount.
Any questions or discussion regarding the Veterans Trial Court Services budget for fiscal year 2025? Can I have a motion to accept that budget as proposed?
So moved.
Will one of you all be second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Blake made a motion, Mr. Berger seconded. Okay, all those in favor, show of hands, please. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Judgment left. All right, that's all the reports we have to go over, finally. The next section that I wanted to discuss was the JRAC opioid settlement disbursement request. Just kind of give you an overview of where the subcommittee is with those applications. So the first application that we had was from Judge Medlock and Judge Halshin for a program to allow mental health evaluations to be completed for inmates in the jail. And that was working through LifeSpring. Will one of you all just give us a brief update on where we are with the program?
Yeah, I can start. If you want to.
You're fine.
So the issue is when someone has a mental health problem going on that makes it difficult for them to participate in the court process. As judges, we can order, or the participants can request a competency evaluation, and if they're found incompetent, then they can go to the state mental health hospital for rehabilitation. The problem is that takes 6 months usually to get accomplished, and the person just sits in the jail for 6 months waiting on a space to go in. So our hope was if we can triage that a little bit, have LifeSpring come over and do an evaluation, perhaps we can get people restored to competency or find that they're not actually incompetent short of having to do the full 6 month process. So we're trying that. We don't know how effective that will be, but we've had one evaluation performed so far this year. I'm happy with the thoroughness and the report that I got back. It did not end up preventing the full process from taking place, but I think it was a good try because it saves a lot of expense and time, and frankly difficulty on the defendant if we can make it happen quicker. So although this one didn't work out, I think the results that we got back are informative and perhaps will work better in the future on different inmates. So
I think you've covered it all.
okay.
Does anybody have any questions about that program? Just to summarize, you were all aware of this, but the subcommittee did vote to approve the application, then the full board voted to approve the application. That went on to the commissioners, and they in turn voted to approve the disbursement of those funds for that program out of the opioid settlement. The second application that we had was from Our Place, who currently provides the drug and alcohol services here in the county. They provide our alcohol and drug program, both the intensive outpatient program, the outpatient program, and an educational program. They also provide some jail services. They go into the jail and do an education level program in the jail. They asked us for some additional funding. The subcommittee met with them one-on-one because we had some questions about sustainability about whether if we gave them money, they were going to be coming back and asking us for additional money. The judges had some questions about, I don't know how to summarize the actual effectiveness of programs that they're providing, not the programs that they're providing, but the additional programs they were wanting to provide. And based on that request, the subcommittee tasked them with going back and providing us with some more information. They have not yet done that, so that application is on hold. The third application that we've had so far was from the ambulance department. That request was for a vascular drill. And basically what they're using that for, if I understand it correctly, is to put a main line into someone without having to stick them multiple times. And they're specifically using that more and more with people who are ODing. So the subcommittee has felt that that is an appropriate request. I did provide you with a copy of the request, and we're at the point now where we need to have a full board discussion and vote on whether we feel that's an appropriate request to forward on to the commissioners for them to make a final decision as to whether to disperse funds to the ambulance department. So did everybody have an opportunity to review that request? Are there any questions about it, or is there any discussion about it? I should state that we had one objection to that, and that was Judge Medlock. He was the only subcommittee member who did not feel that was appropriate for passing forward. Any questions at all? Any discussion about that? All right.
The piece of equipment, is there like regulations for like calibration to make sure that the continued use of something like that would be safe?
I assume so. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that a requirement? Does it have to be calibrated?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like when I would wire a CAT scan facility or an MRI facility, for instance, like those things have to be calibrated to make sure that the standards are met within the medical community. So I don't know if something is riding around in an ambulance and they use it on an individual and then they put it in a box and then wait till the next individual, you know what I mean? Is it some kind of checks and balances in place?
I don't know, but we can find out.
Because that seems like something, especially if you're trying to save somebody's life, that if it's bouncing around in an ambulance, it could be outsourced. And I mean, I don't know anything about that, but a vascular drill sounds pretty intimidating.
Let me ask that very quickly.
You calling Spurgeon? You calling Spurgeon?
Yeah.
I've got him up here. Did it not go?
No? It said his number had been disconnected. You have 620-2824?
It's been disconnected. Yeah,
Do you have Tony's number?
I did have. I lost 1,100 numbers on my phone earlier this year, so.
I mean, I can get it.
Mike was the one that actually made the request.
Yes, Mike made the request.
I've got Tony's number.
Can you call Tony and see if he knows where Mike is? If not, I've got another way we can go about it.
It's ringing.
What, 3 days ago?
Melissa. Hey,
I'm gonna take over.
Hey, is
And
Spurgeon around?
eccentric.
I know.
You don't know where he's at?
Does he have a phone number?
Dude, what number do you have for Mike? Because we've
I know.
called him twice, but it says it's disconnected.
money for the, what the guys are applying for. And,
I'll be back.
they have some funds in Department of Health and Operation and all that. Can we elaborate on that some?
It says it's used when you do not have vein access, they can directly insert it into a bone, either a leg or an upper arm.
Okay, well, let me just bring you up to the front here. Just a second. We're actually in the meeting right now, so I'm gonna put you on speaker. Okay, there you go.
Hey, Tony, this is Melanie Coontz. So we're in the meeting and we're discussing the ambulance department's application for the vascular drill. And one of the committee members has raised a question about whether that has to be calibrated on a regular basis or not.
No.
Okay.
You mean the drill being calibrated?
Yes.
No. Once they're bought, you don't have to calibrate those.
Okay.
They're just a single, they're just a single phase, little drill that fits in your hand and puts needles into the bone, that's what it does.
Okay. Brandon, does that answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, as long as they have some kind of documentation, like this is, the manufacturer should have some kind of paperwork, I would think, with their product.
About,
The functionality of
Yeah.
it, maintenance. anything
is there
like
any
that.
kind of maintenance that has to be done on it on a regular basis?
No,
Okay.
they're a completely sealed unit. I mean, you get them and you run them until the life expires on them. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Do you know what the life, or how long you can use them?
They're usually good. They say they're usually good for roughly around 5,000 uses. That's the non-rechargeable ones.
Okay.
And you can get rechargeable ones, but we don't want to do that because we've got so much stuff plugged in our truck shoreline now that sometimes it blows the breaker, and we don't want to have to plug any more stuff into it. We're overloading it the way it is.
Okay.
So they were just a seal with the lithium battery, and once they're dead, they're dead. There's no reliving it. There's no rebuilding. There's no nothing. It's junk. Once it quits, it's junk.
So the one that you're anticipating purchasing is not the rechargeable one and would have a longer life?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not. It's a lithium-ion one we're thinking about purchasing, and like I said, they're good for about 5,000. 5,000 uses, which 5,000 uses would last us. Holy smokes, that's a long time.
Okay.
You're probably talking 5 years.
Okay.
At least. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody have any other questions?
Melanie, I have a quick question before you hang up.
Yeah.
On the proposal, it shows the needles are a separate price than the machine itself, like 5 machines, and it shows 18. Is that 18 packs of so many needles, or is that 18 needles? Because that's a higher price than
Can you hear that, Tony?
No.
So the question was, in the application, for the needles, it notes 18. Is that 18 packs or 18 needles?
I would have to look at that and see, Melanie. I'm not for sure. I would say more than likely. I mean, the needles go by size. They go by pediatric, they go by adult, and they go by what we call big adult. So many, they have however many kilograms the patient weighs is what needle we use. So there's 3 sets of needles per what we use. So there's 3 sets. So I don't know if you calculated how many you have in their proposal.
Yes, it says IO needles, 3 sizes, 18 times $399.
Okay. So that would probably, and how many drills did he have in the proposal?
5.
5, okay, so that would be, 3 times 5, so that's probably gonna be your 18 there. So, that would be, I would say mostly that would probably be 3 needles per drill, to start out with, and of course we have to build up our inventory.
And
as well.
are those needles reusable?
No. Once you use one, it's done. It's you have to, yeah. Like I said, they go directly in that. They go directly into the bone, so they're not a needle that they're the business behind it is you drill it into the bone, which is a leg bone and arm bone. It goes right into the bone. That's how sometimes we have to give IV fluids and medications that way, critical patients.
So basically what we would be funding is 3 needles for each drill plus an additional set of needles.
More than likely, yeah.
That answers your question.
The needles are pretty pricey.
Okay. Judge Medlock has a question.
Okay.
Where's the money gonna come from to replace those once they've been used? Sounds like you use those fairly frequently.
The question's going to be, where's the money going to come from to replace those once we use all the needles that we fund?
Hopefully we can get it in our budget, hopefully we can get it in our medical expenses budget. We tried to do that this year and the council didn't. We tried to get a raise on our medical expenses budget this year and the council couldn't do it. So even after we showed them that, our expenses had increased, and so we would eventually have to fall back to to a medical budget. Once that runs out, we have to fall back to a medical budget.
Okay. Other questions? All right, Tony, thank you so much for your information. We appreciate it.
Okay, anything else, just give us a call.
Will do. Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you, Rhonda, for getting hold of him. All right, any other discussion or questions about that application? All right, so may I have a motion to submit to the county commissioners the JRAC application number 3 for the Washington County Ambulance Service for the vascular drill and supplies?
I'll make the motion.
Myra moved. Can I have a second?
Second.
Rondell. All those in favor, show of hands, please. All those opposed? Taryn, Judge Medlock. Any abstentions? All right, I believe we have a quorum, so that would pass, and we will move that forward to the county commissioners. In anticipation of that being accepted today, Myra has booked a spot on the commissioners' agenda for their next meeting. We'll present that to them, and then at our next meeting, I'll be able to advise you whether they approve that or not. The final application that we received, and this is just more for information, was also from the ambulance department. That was for a UTV and a trailer to be used on the new Monon Trail for the ambulance department to respond specifically to overdoses, but of course it would be used for other things. The subcommittee has determined they do not feel like that's an appropriate use for the opioid settlement money. If anyone has any discussions or would like to talk about that, we're happy to do that. But at this point in time, because the subcommittee feels like that's inappropriate, we wouldn't be asking for a full vote. Does anybody have any questions about that? Just so you know, we felt like that's something that a lot of counties are going to need to be addressing because, of course, the Monon Trail covers a lot of counties. We also felt like that there was UTV, ATV availability through the Sheriff's Department and the Conservation Office that could assist the ambulance department. I think the ambulance department was wanting to have a UTV that was fully stocked, but at this point in time, we felt like that's not something that's appropriate. And one of the reasons we felt like that, and other subcommittees can chime in, so it's not just me, Right now, we have just about $69,000 in that account, and the request was for $33,000, which would be almost half of the unrestricted funds. So we just felt like that wasn't something that was appropriate at this point in time. Any discussions about that or questions? Okay, is there any other new business? All right, moving on to old business. And I think I covered some of the JRAC stuff that was actually old business under new business. We had tabled the discussion about the incentive gift cards back on July 20th, 2023. If you all will recall, there was a significant amount of gift cards purchased by the PACT office for use with Veterans Court.
Within budget that can be, some TLC poured into it to make it an option for folks.
I'd have to look at the specifics of the funds, see where it would fall, but more than likely, I think something like that's going to fall in the unrestricted, and in the unrestricted right now, there's only 64,000. In the restricted, there's 169. Possibly pull some of the restricted for programming and things like that, but to actually purchase a home, sustain it, I think it's going to have to come out of that unrestricted, which is small. And again, it's just a thought for the future.
But
and
something that's self-sustaining.
Right.
That's what you were talking about. You don't want
Right.
to keep having a handout.
Absolutely.
But something like that, I've seen it work and I've seen it fail over the last 15 years. But the ones that work well, you know what I mean? Because I personally worked on the breakaway home for women in New Albany, Indiana, and donated my electrical services to make it a sustainable facility. it can work, and there are grants available too, so that if they have someone in place, the house manager, who is competent and understands how that's, and can write the grants, like that's a big thing for those places around southern Indiana.
I could see how the house could be self-sustaining, but the programming, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, you have to have a staff in place, and that way when people get arrested, go to jail, serve their time or whatever, and then are on probation, it can be a component of their probation, like, hey, you have to do this.
How do they pay for the programming?
The rent, like the home, you know, fortunately you can find through grants and stuff like that to get that paid for. And then if you have 16 people at $75 or $85 a week, that's how they pay for their staff and pay for their utilities and all that stuff. Because ultimately you have to get a passenger van, you have to take them to meetings and stuff like that. And you have to have your community, because the group structure has to be community based. And what prospers in the community is holding each other accountable. And that's the people in the home, like, hey, it was your turn to do the dishes. You know what I mean? And through that accountability develops living habits that they take with them when they move on. Because if they're like me, when I got there at 24, I mean, I had to grow up. I had to learn how to grow up, and I had been going to jail, I'd been going to penitentiary, and I was still refusing to grow up. But when I got to the men's healing place, and those men who were just like me sat around and held me accountable for the actions that I was doing on basic stuff, it transcended to other stuff outside of there, and it helped me amazingly. So.
And we're glad it did.
Amen.
Yeah, Brandon, my observation on most of places are that they're not very well run. Right? So the real challenge, I think, is if something like that's going to occur, it has to be the right people.
Yeah, staff has
the
to
right
be.
attitude, has to be an accountability model rather than an enabling model. And, so I think it's really hard to create. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I think it's really heartbreaking when people find places like that to go to, and then they're actually poorly run or even fraudulent in some places, and now you've made the person worse and maybe destroyed any opportunity for them to take advantage of things in the future. I start off with a pretty skeptical worldview of those, and if the right people and the right processes can get in place, then I think I could be convinced, but too many of them are poorly operated.
Yeah, and the accountability has to start at the top, because you can't give something that you don't have yourself.
Yeah.
And that's one in Louisville called Our Father's House. And people would get kicked out of the healing place, and they would land at Our Father's House, which is a few blocks down Market Street in Louisville. And that structure that the healing place stands on was not in place there, and those men would game the system and what have you. So I mean, yes, there has to be accountability, and the thing about a county-sponsored facility would be that you would be able to have structure with probation officers to kind of oversee during business hours, and then you would just have to focus on the night managers to make sure that the rules in the evening, because that's, from my experience, the trickiest part is making sure that when they leave in the evening, are they back on time, or are they doing what they're supposed to when they're out? And you have to have consequences in place if they choose not to do that. You know what I mean? That it wakes them up, like, this is, you get one shot and then you're out. So, but I mean, the funds are there, you know what I mean? And that's, when you talk about options on how to direct them, I mean, your hands are tied. Like, what do you do? There's no magic bullet to fix drug addiction, especially opioid drug addiction. I mean, I have seen men and women for the years that I've been sober fall consistently because of the nature of the beast, so to speak. And it's tough.
Okay, well, food for thought, things to think about, and I think we're all of the same mind that we're not going to see this money used inappropriately or for projects that, as we said, aren't sustainable or are not to the benefit of the constituents here in the county. So, okay guys, if you want to go ahead and eat, we got about 5 minutes till we start the next meeting. Thank you all for being here early.